I think they're aware of that, so the pressure is really on. They're starting on the attacking side, though, so they can dictate the pace from the get-go.
And for the final time in playoffs, we are going and starting a series once more. W7M versus Los1, with the Montang being banned straight out by W7M. So removed from play for Los1, with Dokkaebi being the reply.
Yeah, that's not surprising either. Again, Dokkaebi is just such an insta-ban nowadays. All of that utility, the global call, and also his EMPs on pocket. Monty is a nice one too. A lot of safe pushes you can make, whether that's the cash push or the cafe push with that Monty behind you. Gives you a little bit of a safety net when facing some of that shield utility that the defense often bring. The mirror too. So many nice setups with that mirror. So rightfully so, for this map especially, it is going to be yeeted and deleted. Valk coming through too. A little bit of intel, of course. A classic. I think these bans are pretty safe on both sides.
Safe on both sides, but I'm really liking the Valkyrie ban. Yes, she's a strong operator, but also we saw yesterday a lot of good use out of those black eyes in terms of getting those information, and we saw W7 on the defense and also FaZe, and it kind of could take apart rounds for the attackers. So removing that information gives a bit more space. But Grace, we are casting Brazil, and a Brazilian operator on defense has been picked. It is a rare sight, Grace. The Caveira.
Yeah, an interesting one. Again, you're not really something you too often see, mostly down to the fact that, you know, some of the util to bring, you got the nades in pocket if you do want to make a rotation, but at the same time, if KZ falls down, that's all of that utility removed from the hands of W7M. They're not going to really get much benefit out of it, so KZ needs to make a big brain play if they are taking that kind of operator selection.
Has to have a game plan. It's the kind of operator which really only works for 1, maybe 2 rounds at a push. Past that point, teams should, especially at this level, be able to adapt very quickly for it. But that being said, every time I've gone, it's Caveira, she's not the best operator, usually the player ends up getting an interrogation. So I will bite my tongue for now and see how it plays out.
Yeah, we'll see if it actually ends up happening, because I feel like 9 times out of 10, every time I see the Cav board out in comp, it just gets taken care of very, very quickly. This one decides to take the clutch springs is an interesting one. Again, I've not really seen many teams get much use out of it yet, unless they're using it to get rid of, you know, mute jammers as an example, just kind of turning the tide, so to speak, enabling you to use some of that to your advantage. We see the prox mine getting hacked as well.
I guess it's also the fact that you get, what, 4 drones? Like, ignore the actual gadget, right? It's 4 drones. That's a lot of information. But Maya, the star player, completely out the gate, takes the first, gets traded immediately by her. So that's the first engagement. But Maya's done his job. He's got that entry kill, and that will give a little bit of breathing room for Los1 to leverage their attack. But the engagement onto Cafe Grace is causing a few issues for Loban. He knows the Legion is within there. JV is sitting pretty, but he's actually going to go aggressive around the corner and take him out for W7M to take the lead in the round.
And no immediate trade back just yet, so pretty much securing yourself a nice little shot there, rustling the jimmies of Los1. Dash looks like they're going to try and look for some of these extended roamers. Again, really difficult at this point. You can't really force the execute because you still have all of these players upstairs to deal with. And here we go, KZ. Looking. There we go. Actually goes for the kills to go for the interrogation. Hertz gets one onto Riz too. Got Zero going for the swing around the corner. There we have it. The trade back onto KZ comes through. But again, a 1 versus 3. You still have to get the plant down as well if you're probably going to have to go for kills. This is a little bit uncomfortable. The drop down would have been called if they're not aware of the player here behind the corner. The pinch comes through, and there we have it. Novi, W7M, 1 round on the board.
Dots actually manages to trade a kill there. If he had just sort of hit fired 180, I mean, I'm saying like this is possible for a human to kind of comprehend all that information in one go, but sort of kill the person in front, 180 round, and then get maybe a lucky headshot that was kind of separate 1 versus 1. So W7M leaving a very small but a gap within their armor that Dots tried to really take advantage of, but didn't materialize. W7M get the first round win of the series, and we'll see what site they rotate to next. Los1 good attempt at the earlier round with Maya, but losing him so early on isn't ideal.
No, not ideal at all, and even more this round. Maya needs to try and stay alive because those Rotora drones are going to be very, very important at clearing a lot of this utility setup. Again, you know, you do have those Kiba barriers in place still. His army hasn't been banned. We've seen how impactful they could be, especially around this cafe area, Novi. It used to be you could just take a shield and hold it towards that doorway. It's a bit more tricky now when you do have those keepers because you get these almost multiple shields in your pocket for pretty much free. Of course, the ADSs as a bit of defense as well. It's a really nasty setup and a really difficult push to make.
Yeah, yesterday we saw it being held just with the Azami, nothing else. Now we're seeing it held with the Azami, the Jaeger ADS, and the Mute Jammers as well. Cafe, I guess the only way really to clear it is to go underneath into the laboratory and then work your way up, create those vertical angles and start applying pressure that way, because otherwise that Azami is not moving from that space. You will just have to peek her, and she's got a huge advantage with those keeper barriers.
I think that's the thing too that's going to be maybe a little bit spicy is, you know, how much impact are Lost One actually going to get out of the Amaru. It's a tale as old as time we often see, especially, you know, the G8 in hand is old. Actually, no, it's the Supernova, I believe. So that's a little bit nasty actually coming through from Dash. If they're able to get a quick entry point into maybe Break Room as an example and just go for a few shotty kills around the corner. But again, you need the timing, you need the positioning of your teammates in order to enable you to go for that kind of play. It's a little bit spicy, a little bit nasty, but if they can pull it off, I am here for it.
Absolutely, we saw this on Oregon yesterday. Yamaru being used in several fast plays early on in the round, but supported by the Lion. This is where it really pays dividends on the operator, because restricting the movement of the defenders allows Dash to run on in. He doesn't even need the shotty. Instead, he opts for the SMG-11, gets the kill. Hertz is looking to try and hold the player outside of Cafe at bay, but the rest of W7M is doing a good job until now. Nade keeps them in the round. Lions E1D is rumbling the location of all the players, but no, Nade is on fire so far in this round. It's all on Dash to close us out, and Nade, I believe that was a quad kill to close us out, or at least a triple. Phenomenal stuff.
Phenomenal stuff indeed. Lost One trying to go for an aggressive push there, and it was nearly working. It's just, again, you have to have the information there to go for these kind of plays, and perhaps they didn't quite have the information they needed to go for some of these swings with the Supernova. They are choosing to potentially take it again, maybe more of the same. And taking that entry point into Break Room is often the common thing you see from those Amaru players. On the side of W7M, though, they are going to go down to Lab now. A pretty sensible bet as well. Again, not many people try and go direct here. They try and take that top floor. They try and take that throne and barrels control. So this gives W7M the opportunity to really extend now, really dip into that utility use. They are bringing the Oryx, which again, a little bit spicy, I must admit. But the Bailiff, again, lots of rotations, lots of lines of sight you can create. Utility, we never really get to see too much use sometimes out of that kind of, you know, hatch rotation with Oryx plays, because sometimes, you know, you expect the Oryx players to get a little bit aggressive, and depending on how those opening odds go, it's either, okay, it works or it doesn't, and you die and you lose that utility. I am curious to see if they stay alive. If Filippo could maybe go for a late round flank, that could be huge.
Yes, it creates more options than, say, a Vigil where you're just relying on disguising against the drones, right? You've got that option for the late round flank. That can it's the only operator that can do that through the hatches. And suddenly, for now, Lost One, if Felipox is alive, you've got to consider that as a problem later into the round. But as we look forward, you can see Rise has got the Nomad with the air jabs. So maybe W7M with their rotations. We saw Lost One very quick at pulling the trigger, but struggling once W7M sort of collapsed back in onto the site to prevent the assault.
Really excited to see if there's a little bit more aggression from W7M as the time goes on, because for now they're really holding back. They're being very patient indeed. Looking cool as cucumbers, to be honest, Novi. Again, no over-peaking, no overstepping, just really relying on the fact that, you know, we have these really nice utility setups. I think of Theme Park, again, it is a large map, but there's very standard ways you can approach it. Like Filippo might have gone on a little bit of a tear, a little bit of a Kool-Aid guy moment bursting through the wall there.
Yep, with the Rima dash, just charges on through the wall, but Low1 doing a good job at getting this ground floor control. They might have struggled yet to get Cafe, but they've at least got Throne Room and Arsenal, and that is a great catch. That is a gift for Low1, but they're not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. That is fantastic, and with that, they take the advantage going forwards. Grace with just under half the round left in the round.
They do, but let's see if they can try and convert this into the actual round win as well. Again, still so much utility they have to get through. When we consider the danger of those frost mats, well, also the danger of Dash and Lobin getting one apiece for W7M. Filippo does go massive though, taking out Dash. That's at least a little bit of blood spilt on the side of Low1, but again, they're in a 2 versus 4 right now, Novi.
Oh, a nade has gone down. A 4-1 is much, much harder, but the Oryx is still alive. There's the option to rotate through some of the hatches. That's a great first kill to bring them back into it. Now 1 versus 3. Mai is incredibly low. A sliver of HP separating him from death. Now, what does he do with the last 25 seconds? Low1 choosing to plant. They've got the time for it. May as well stick it while they've got site control. Fleapox has nothing left to lose. May as well full on send it, but has no information to go off of. And is quickly dispatched to close out the round. A nice job by the attackers.
This is finally getting a round on the board. Granted, it is that kind of offside, but they did a really good job again of just making sure that they got that first blood under their belt. Then they weren't too scared to just go for these kills. They did lose a lot of drones in the process, but I think that is because they were trying to really hunt out the players of W7M and take them out before, you know, this extension could be utilized to its advantage. Really good stuff, really. And again, W7M are going to go to Throne Room. This could always be a kind of tricky one to approach, again, just on the basis that, yes, there's a lot of walls that you can go through here, Novi. But there's always potential of, you know, impact tricks. We see it a lot. Granted, you know, KZ has used their impacts already, so there's not really going to be that to defend those walls. We do have the Electra Claws, but they might be utilized on Yellow Stairs wall instead. They want to go and try and prevent that pizza execute. At the same time, maybe a bit of presence upstairs overlooking barrels could be a good bet. We do have KZ upstairs as well. Low1, their best bet is to try and keep that top floor control and then start to work that verticality with Dash there on the book and Rise on that sledge. Loads of util Low1 have to try and go for this approach.
And those lack of impacts, if Low1 can realize that and sort of identify that hole, quote unquote, in a defense, then they can start opening up those walls, get that crossfire going, and then it becomes sort of a 50-50 gunfight past that point. They don't have the Lion to try and encapsulate some of the defenders, but they did bring the Maverick just in case. So even if there is impacts, they can still fairly safely, without getting chipped with a bit of damage, start getting rid of the wall, opening it their way through, and start applying pressure onto the site. But Low1 a lot more cautious. They're aware that W7M likes these extended site setups, and that is through the arcade window. C4 going out at insult to injury, and JV does it to Lobin. Poor Lobin, removed from the game.
Poor Lobin, indeed, and that is a set of nades gone. That may have been a little bit more useful as the time went on too, especially when it comes to that final collapse. You know, with Throne Room, the verticality works mostly on that kind of top-down, so it's not too much of an issue, but you can sometimes roll those nades through the floorboards and get yourself a nice little freebie. Especially if you are trying to contest that E-box, that's the main issue there for me. Again, they do have the nades on Maya though. C4 being prepped though, just in case someone does try and approach here. Dash could be the one to fall victim to that.
Taking his time though. He's aware that something ain't right. I'm not sure what's going on. Gonna take his time, drop down the other stairs. Droning. Good. We were quite critical of W7M in yesterday's series, and also Low1 in the series before that against MIBR, about those fundamentals, that droning. Both teams struggled on their attack, especially in crunch time like this. to start initiate their drones and get the information needed. But Maya, fantastic on that Iana. The star player for Los1, stepping up once again, putting his team on a level playing field in which they can mount their execute. But Grace, 40 seconds, and they're still only just now opening the vertical angles.
It's dangerous because those verties work both ways. JV collecting themselves a nice little freebie because Rise has their back turned. And here we go, Barrel's entry is going to be opened. So he's at an angle of pressure that they can now utilize against W7M's hold on site. Again, there'll be pressure upstairs. They still need to maintain some of that just to put the pressure on the players below. Looks like they are holding back for now, getting to be safer positions. Dash desperately going for a little bit of a pop shot here. Trade comes through. KZ gets the second one there because the Vulcans do their thing. And Nade to finish things off. Look at this. A beautiful shot there. Little spray and pray. The things you love to see, Novi.
Things you love to see. Not the cleanest engagement, but to be fair, for the Warden, for Nade, he doesn't really care if he gets that kill or not. I mean, it'd be nice to pad the stats, but he's just wasting time, right? He's just going, okay, try and shoot me. I'm a moving target. Like, you just sit there and don't come into sight and we're all good. And he's happy with that. W7M moved to 3-1. Los1, we said, okay, they've got that defensive side, but really they need to look for at least 2 rounds to be in a comfortable position and have a good foundation for that halftime switch. Otherwise, they are going to start to struggle. W7M are very good on their primary and secondary. Their tertiary was where they fell apart, so W7M is looking to get to that comfortable 4-round lead so far in this game.
Absolutely, and they are going for a full extended setup yet again. I mean, to be honest, maybe like this is one of my favorite maps because of these extensions you can do, because of these aggressive angles. The way that you can just completely change the interior of the map, especially when it comes to that bunk site. You can have this line of sight that goes all the way from, you know, one side of bunks all the way through initiation, all the way into CCTV. In fact, if you get loads of soft destructibility under your belt on the defense. But again, those angles work both ways, so if Los1 want to try and get CCTV and open those angles themselves, they certainly can. Maybe it'll cause a little bit of a ruckus.
Causing a ruckus. That's what we like to see. A bit of chaos. Los1 sometimes lean too heavily in that structured nature, and then, you know, when they get to the battlefield, when the plan doesn't survive, they lose a couple players here and there. Coordination seems to slip apart. So maybe bringing that chaos forward and going, you know what, we're going to take that aggression to W7M, take those gunfights, because they're more than capable. Yes, we shout about Maya till the cows come home, but the rest of the team can win their ones and prove worrisome for W7M. Don't let W7M dictate the pace on their defense.
Pressure already being mounted from break room. Those Selmas are going to allow those 3 lines of sight to be created. So sometimes people do like to play, you know, the break windows a little bit more aggressively, but it's such a difficult angle to contest about. Speaking of congestion, Lobin, beautiful shot there. Heads will fall down. Of course, those frost mats will still be about. There is the assumption as well that they may be used.
Or herds. Or herds. And with that, you can see the reaction from W7M suddenly scrambling, going, okay, well, we've just lost a player. How do we reposition? And this is where they're at their strongest. Their adaptability to change position and get set up for those crossfires. Los1 taking their time, though, Grace, doing their due diligence, their fundamentals to drone forward and get as much information as possible before they execute.
But that's the issue, Novi. They have 2 drones on the table that are still in pocket. They've lost all of that intel, all of these drones. They have nothing here. That's where the delay is coming from. You can't really push blind into this kind of setup. There's still these extensions. I mean, Rise is going to get 1 at least. JV will fall down. So they do have the advantage now. If they can try and work around these duos, go for some of these swings together, get these crossfires as they push, maybe that's their best bet here. But again, they don't have that information, so it's a little bit of risky business right now.
They just started droning now with 20 seconds left. Felipox returns fire back towards Lobin, but Nade gets traded back. Felipox doing the work for W7M, keeping them in the round, but it's 10 seconds. Ooh. Oh, what a shot! Outstanding kill! But no, Los1 just bully them with numbers, Grace. Just completely swarm them and suffocate them on the site.
You know, okay, fair enough. But we don't need intel. We'll just flood towards you. Like, I respect it. That shot was nasty, though. Oh my goodness, it really makes you sick. Goodness me. But no, that was, again, really well timed by Low1. They were like, okay, well, we have the player advantage. Let's just go for this collapse and make sure we're covering these angles. Because W7M, I think, had gone a bit more passive, they'd fallen back into some of these more predictable angles, I suppose. The pre-fires could come through a lot easier there on that execute.
And Low1 in a very comfortable position now. Because W7M choosing the same sites. You know, they didn't necessarily struggle in this, but it was more down to the early kills. But often when you see a team losing that round or whatever on their defense, they tend to switch things up just to make sure that the attackers are still guessing a bit on their toes. Low1 have already won this attack. Now they just need to repeat that. A 3-3 scoreline is very, very good for them. But it came down to an opening pick onto Herds. Is W7M going to overextend and allow Low1 to get that advantage?
Anytime can tell. It's interesting that Solus has come out, though, because, again, granted, you know, Low1 haven't been doing too well with that drone eco, especially that last round, but at the same time, it's not just about things like, you know, getting those drones taken away. It's even things like holding for that final plant. If you can get underneath, if you can go for that vertical, you can deny it. However, Filippo doesn't have nades, so it will have to be an upshot from the floor below. Let's see how much use they get of it. Again, at least you can kind of assume where that initial entry point is going to come from as to where those drones are set up.
Candela's getting thrown into the cafe corridor just outside Arcade. Logan's going to send in the replicator. Get a bit of information. Has goes, okay, now you know where I am. Throw a keeper barrier and I can rotate round. But frag grenade's going to get tossed. Herds definitely dances around the grenade, but Rotero drone is going to force him back. The keeper barrier is gone. A lot of that defensive barricade is no more. And Low1 is looking to hunt down this army, but his Rise is the first one to fall on that Solus, taking him out. And that'll be Low1 falling against that entry frag for W7M.
Yeah, Herds has done a really good job of pulling back and preventing that push into Cafe, but has now fallen back. They've decided, okay, I've wasted enough time. I've wasted a ton of that nade utility that Loban had. I can just pull back a little bit safe now and work with nade. If they start sending any flashes in, we've at least got that Warden utility now to be that extra line of defense. Got Zero going for an additional angle too. Maybe looking to go for a little bit of a split push here. Still applying these pressures, going for these choke points, squeezing the machine of W7M.
Now for Low1. This is their crunch point. This is where they have to decide how they play. They're not amazing in those man disadvantages situation on attack. They tend to panic, but that is a great kill to get them back in the swing of things. Loban has Cafe control, but is getting contested from Arcade. There's also the site player to deal with as well. His army steps too wide. Herds gets completely blown apart. And with that, Low1, with 30 seconds, have a chance to swing onto the site.
Ooh, swinging like that, bro. Nate's gonna collect a freebie. JG as well, and KZ gets one before getting another onto Maya. A swift little cleanup as that execute came through, but they didn't quite have the util to enable them there.
Yeah, the Candela's getting thrown in, but not exactly hitting. W7M did a great job in just being able to hold the line, allow Low1 to apply the pressure. That was an overextension by Herds, but what happened to Dash here? Yeah, just through the wall by Nade, and it was quick. Every single angle was covered off by W7M just then, and Low1 had a good situation, had a good opportunity, but unfortunately missed the mark as they now swap to their defensive side.
Again, does not really having the information. Yeah, the swinging through break is a good option, but you've always got to be careful of any kind of, you know, damage to the wall of the left, whether that's a rotation, whether that's a line of sight. Incredibly tricky business to try and go for that. But again, you had the Candelas, so maybe that gave you a bit of a safety blanket. But of course, those Candelas aren't going to reach into other rooms if people are holding it from the other room. Difficult situation to go against. They were running out of time, Novi. What else could they have done? Very, very flustered, to be honest, from Lost One at the end there. But as you say, they're going to that defensive side now. They're already bringing the alibi out, which I personally really love. I think it's a really nice bit of kit as long as that alibi stays alive. Sometimes you land yourself a little bit of free intel if people do go for those pre-fires and you do get that live ping. But otherwise, again, just like the Oryx, you have that Bailiff secondary. You can make these nice little lines of sight. You can make these rotations. You can go for a little bit of a roam and still have that utility to get yourself to safety if needed. And of course, the shield. We all love a bit of shield action.
Yeah, the deployable shield is just so invaluable. We basically saw the Azami, who has her own set of deployable shields to deploy, just completely control Cafe, ultimately, for W7M. But the alibi, like you said, with the amount of extended site setups and the soft walls as well, those Prismas, there is plenty chance to accidentally ping them, you know, completely unintentionally for W7M. So perhaps something that they have to be conscious of as they start to get pinged already.
Oh, they went. No, they're not. Just a flood into sight. They're caught off guard. And all that site control, that plan is going to go down Novi. And this is going to be a really uncomfortable retake. They're going to try and go for the 30. They think it's default. They think it's default pizza spot, but it's not. Oh my goodness, Novi, what am I witnessing?
They're not caught off guard. I'm caught off guard. How on earth has that happened? This is unbelievable. W7M saw an opportunity and they just full on sent it. Maya's trying to recover it, but it's really not going to work out. They have no information, nothing at all. W7M, we said their attack was perhaps their weakness. Los won. The defense wasn't even there. W7M just walked straight in.
They extended so much expecting that full roam clear to come through from W7M because, to be honest, you would. They're very good at doing that. They're very good at being sensible and being like, okay, we will get rid of you all. We'll go for those picks. We'll be a bit more sensible and by the book about it. However, they saw an opportunity there, Novi. They were like, yep, there's like one person on site. We've droned it. At the time, too, unfortunately, you know, nades in hand waiting for that hard breach to go against a thrown wall. And I think it was, you know, I can't remember who it was, but they got that opening pick. .0 falls down at that point because again, you're staring at the wall holding a nade, thinking, okay, they're going to try and go for that hard breach. I can go for an impact trick. I can delay that timer a little bit. They literally walked through the door of Bottom Dragon.
That just shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't happen. And you've got to wonder as well, right? There's the default cam. Was that shot out? What happened? Was that called that it got shot out? Was anyone on cams watching at the time? Because W7M essentially gifted that. They saw the opportunity and went for it. And Los One, unbelievable. They're going to need, not necessarily a miracle, they're still within it, but certainly a bit of luck going their way. Perhaps Lobin, this is it. Going for a cheeky run out. We've seen plenty of players in the past go for this same trick. Of course, for me, Doki springs to mind, but no one is biting. W7M completely ignoring this side of the map, the east side, and instead turn their attention elsewhere.
I love that from W7M too. They've been like, okay, they're most likely going to be extending here. They're going to be holding a lot of aggression. Maybe we just go a bit more direct here. Again, get that cafe control, start applying pressure to those windows. We have KZ underneath as well, so of course the up nades can come through if they get that information to utilize it. Right before the storm. Again, no Azami being brought by Lost One either. We've spoken about how crucial, how important those Kiba barriers can be, especially with that cafe setup. So you do have a shield still, of course, but loads of ADSs to deal with it. But this is a problem. If the up nades start coming through, if those flashes come through followed by nades from KZ or Hertz, it's going to get nasty very, very quickly.
And that Flores is certainly going to help dissipate any kind of pressure in Cafe unless the mute jabs. Oh, Dots walking into the frag grenade, but catches. No, does not catch Herds off guard. He instead gets a double kill. How has that happened? How on earth? Unbelievable scenes. W7M getting away with absolute bloody murder right now. JV is going to try and back off the teammates from the enemy in Los One. Recover. Let Nade get Herds back up, and they've gotten away with it, Grace, somehow, and brought it to a 3 versus 3.
It is so good that they actually went for the res there too, because it's going to keep them at that even man count. Granted, you know, Herds is on a tiny bit of health now, but they still have that Gemini replica. They can still get a little bit of information here for the side of W7M to work out where these players of Low Swan are hiding. And Dash holding that little pixel angle towards defeat. And then it starts to ring through Novi. It looks like they might be setting up to go for these kills indeed. Doing that in the corner. Tags up JV a little bit. Again, no kills coming through. Well, there we go, as I said, nade falls down. That is huge. Another one down to JV. A 1 versus 3 now for Herds, who, as I said, the tiniest little bit of health here. Low Swan have really battened down the hatches here, and they know exactly where he is. Those pre-fires coming through. A difficult angles contest, and there we have it.
Yeah, W7M getting another gift, but unfortunately it doesn't work out for them. Low Swan, very good defense in that 3 versus 3, relies on those crossfires, those setups, the careful swings, measured aggression. That's what we like to see. So they recover a little bit of their confidence as they move on forward to the bottom floor. W7M, though, they managed to win that first round side. So they're very comfortable. They just need to get a couple more rounds, and then we're moving on to Border, where we've pegged them as favorites for that map.
Already, you know, double shotguns coming through with the SAS operators, so that's a good shout. Again, ideally you want them in these choke points, places like bathroom, places like the actual site itself, where again, if people do go for something a little bit immediate, you want to take them slightly off guard. And again, that bathroom can be really difficult to contest on both sides, to be honest. Really, really tight angles. If you have that firepower behind you, it's a lot easier to do. The shield, of course, is always going to be useful. Those C4s most importantly too, though, because again, it's not just a factor of, okay, we'll hold it maybe for if they do go for that execute eventually. Remember that Cafe is very soft. A lot of this top floor is very soft. Dash is an example in that roam. On that extension, if they want to fall back and go for a C4 pick, they certainly can.
Yeah, they have plenty of options. They just gotta be mindful of that extension. W7M, they're very, very fast to react. This feels like a different W7M than what we saw yesterday. I said they were fast to react, but Low Swan this time taking the advantage. We saw Lobin positioning in the previous round, debating that run out. This time he brings the aggression to W7M and gets first blood in the first 30 seconds.
So it's going to be interesting to see as well, like, again, how much this intel denial is going to work out for Low Swan at the moment. You know, we see the W7M. They've still got a fair few drones working their magic. Intel works both ways. Of course, we do have Maya on the Solis. It's going to give them a line into sight anymore. I'm wondering at some point, you know, are W7M going to deal with the presence upstairs, though, because nothing's really happening there. It looks like they're trying to go a little bit more direct here.
Looking for that horizontal push within the site. No real pressure going to that top floor. The blessing with that is the fact that a lot of resources from Low Swan has been put not near the site. So W7M could look to just walk on in. KZ, beautiful kill onto Maya. And that's the Solis, who's so ever important in identifying where the plant is going down later in the round, is no more.
Again, really nice stuff for W7M, because KZ still has both nades in pocket as well, and they have tons of flash utility, so they have so much working for them in terms of how they want to go for that final collapse. They just need to get into these positions. They just need that information right now. Again, 2 drones left in pocket, so that could be what's giving them a bit of a standstill right now. They're waiting for Low Swan to go for an overpeak, and it's just not being given to them. Ooh, the beautiful nade from K. There we go! Beautiful stuff. KZ taking out .0, and they're fully in the site now. Another one down to Dash. Lobin gets tagged up. Again, this plant needs to go down. 40 seconds, though, is enough time to do so. Filippo's going to swing around the corner and take down Lobin too. Rise is all left down to you, my friend. A 1 versus 4. There's 1. Can you bait these 1 versus 1s? Again, the bathroom, it's a difficult room to try and pull through. Lots of nasty angles, and there we have it. Hertz has that angle, and W7M, they are sailing away with this map at the moment, Novi.
That frag grenade at the back of the lab was just, of the storage room, in fact, was just so good. That was the call to action for W7M to leap on in. Here it is. And as soon as that goes off and that kill is secured, he just jumps straight in onto the site, and W7M click their fingers. They're way more dynamic and proactive than they were yesterday. Where was this W7M beforehand? Whatever was ailing them then is not appearing today, and their big weakness was that attack. They look considerably better today.
I'm really concerned for W7M right now. They've called a timeout, granted, here, but it is match point. Not the most favourable time for that timeout to come through. But again, you know, this map has gone really in the favour of W7M. I think Border's going to be pretty uncomfortable, to be honest, for W7M. I know that they can play it, but W7M, it is their pick. It is something that, you know, historically they've been pretty comfortable. Maybe a bit like 50-50 about going forward, but certainly more comfortable than W7M seem to be, at least in terms of, you know, ban and pick preference. And again, even if they pull it back, Villa's going to be really uncomfortable. This is so sad right now if you're a W7M fan. Never say never, though. Let's not count our chickens before they've hatched.
Of course. Maybe W7M, they're thinking you got to... What's the expression? Crack a few eggs to make an omelette? They're thinking, okay, we'll dust off. It's not going too well, but we're in a series. There's plenty more maps to play. And to be fair, that is a very good point. We saw W7M and W7M in similar situations earlier on in playoffs where their backs were against the wall. They weren't winning the maps they were expecting to win, and they had to step up their game. In fact, W7M, essentially beating statistically a superior MIBR, still was able to come out with the round win because they just purely did not give up. So don't count W7M out yet, but W7M, they want this final round. They want to close this out and move forward onto Border. Their map pick. And of course, they wouldn't pick it if they didn't feel comfortable on it and they thought they could close out the series there and then.
It's going to be awkward. But, you know, we talk about closing out. You know, W7M, they have to try and get 3 rounds now to bring us to that oh-so-glorious potential of overtime. But let's see if they have it in them. These attacks from W7M have just been so punchy so far. Again, just really working out, okay, we don't really have a lot of intel, but where are these gaps in these defenses? Again, give them an inch, they will take a mile. They are exploiting these setups coming through from W7M at the moment. This one needs to start being a bit more resourceful, a bit more information, maybe staying a bit more closer to site at times too.
W7M, it's been gorgeous to watch them, because this is a better team than what we witnessed yesterday. And W7M, I'm waiting for them to step up. We know that they can be good on their defensive side, but this pressure that has been being brought by W7M, how fast they're taking through their checklist and how quickly they can react, is catching W7M off guard. Of course, we're not going to see just a tiptoe onto site early on like we did in the first round of the half, but it is still first blood going the way of W7M. W7M's been really good on those opening kills, but when W7M do get them, they're very good at converting.
So, yeah, we've seen this story before. Nades being held. Nade coming out from W7M, but again, will that nade come out from Rise to try and hold back these exothermic charges? I believe that did actually work, or did it? Oh, JV! Gorgeous shot down to Dash. Again, W7M slowly being whittled away, slowly starting to feel this pressure now. At least those walls are still firm and closed. And look at that. I don't know if Nade actually has any exothermic charges left. Granted, Filippo does have those secondaries in his pocket.
And for W7M, yes, they've managed to defend those walls, but at what cost? They are bleeding players. JV essentially got that kill for free on the top floor. He was just sitting outside a window, ready and waiting. No information for W7M. Get caught out, and with 30 seconds on the clock, those toxic babes are going to start detonating, which means the W7M, without that crossfire setup or the opening in the wall, they're on this very direct approach, and that's just going to help the smoke count even more. The Capitão looking for an engagement in which to use the tactical crossbow, but there's only 12 seconds. Another one for KZ, but Maya is holding true on the opposite side of the site. A double kill before going down, but there we have it. W7M take the lead on Theme Park Dream Park.
Wowsy, wowsy, wowsy. I mean, I said it was going to be a barn burner, but not like that. W7M really putting their foot down here and being like, we are W7M. We will take your map pick. 7-3. That is a very good scoreline, especially considering the rest of the games this weekend that